welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. My name is Nastasia. Also, okay, I thought I was gonna wear these. They're pretty cute. Let's have a moment. But this glare is driving me nuts, so it's probably driving you nuts too. We're gonna not. Anyway, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about my word for 2022, what it was, how God showed up in that word, because he gave me that word for the year, and ending it off with a bang of what my word for 2023 is. So this is going to be a very chatty video. Hold on, I have to grab my notes. So, grab a snack, grab a drink. This could be a long one, but it'll be a fun one. And if you end up liking this video, give it a like. That would help me out so much. Don't forget to subscribe, because I don't show up in everybody's feed. Well, actually, hit the bell and subscribe, because even if you're subscribed, sometimes it doesn't show up, which is super annoying. But definitely subscribe, because then I definitely won't show up if you're not subscribed. Also, I have an Instagram. It's right here if you want to check it out. I also have a TikTok now. I know, who is she? I have no idea. Low-key, I'm kind of terrified of TikTok. I have been for years. It just seems like a very godless place, and like, I'm kind of scared of it. But the Lord did not give us a spirit of fear, so we are going to TikTok with the word of God. But I'm over there too, if you're interested. I probably won't read any of the comments, because I'm sure it's only sooner or later before I start getting hated. So yeah, it is what it is. But today we are talking about my word for 2022, which was faith. So let me open up my notes here. A little bit of a backstory. I have gotten a word of the year from the Lord since 2018. Well, technically 2017 for 2018. And so I've gotten it since then. And I am the first one to be very cautious when people say, I have a word for you, or God told me to tell you this, or something like that. Like, I don't, like, that kind of gets really dicey. But here's what I will say. Every single year, the Lord has given me a word, usually around October, November time for the upcoming year. And every single time it has been consistent, and every single time it has been eerily accurate to what that year brings. So I know it is the Lord, because it's like, it's a lot. And every single time, it's in a similar way that I kind of get this word from the Lord. And so I can recognize his voice in that now. And on top of that, all of it is biblical. So like, my word for 2018 was expectant, which is in the Bible. My word for 2019 was redemption, which is in the Bible. 2020 was forgiveness. 2021 was hope, and 2022 was faith. So all of these things are biblical concepts. None of them are like, you know, you're gonna be a millionaire this year, you're gonna whatever. Like, it's not like that. It's genuinely a word to just lean into in the year and see what God shows me in that year, to kind of build on that, you know. Faith was for 2022. So like I was saying, I got this word, faith, in October of 2021. So I usually get it a couple months before. And I always know around that time, I'm like, usually this is around the time God gives me a word for this next year. I wonder what it's going to be. I start praying about it. I start asking God to give me clarity on what it is. I genuinely, I do not search for a word. I do not try to make it what I want it to be. I genuinely pray and seek the Lord's face, and he gives me peace about the word. And usually they're words that I would not choose for myself. And that's how I kind of know it's him, because I'm like, man, I don't want that one. Like hope, I did not want that one. And I'll get into that a little bit more in a second. But so in October of 2021, the word given to me for 2022 was faith. And I was not excited about it, because I know that the Bible, when it talks about faith and increasing your faith, it talks about how you will usually have to go through trials and tribulations for for your faith to kind of be stretched. And I was like, well, that means I'm going to go through trials and tribulations. So what is that going to look like? Like, I was not excited about it, but I also knew deep down, I was like, I know this is my word. I know God gave this to me. So ready or not, here we come. Like, he's never disappointed me before with my words. And I always kind of go in expecting the worst, and it doesn't end up being the worst by any means. And he does so many great things. So I was not excited. I was a little apprehensive, but I knew it was going to be of him. And then about a week or so later, after I got that word, we found out I was pregnant, which was a surprise pregnancy. We weren't planning on it. Of course, we were really excited. Little caveat here, or not caveat, but just a little, side note. For 2021, my word of the year was hope. And immediately when I got that word from the Lord, I was not excited. I was like, no, because I pretty much knew that meant that there's going to be a lot of things in 2021 that made me feel hopeless, that I really had to lean into my hope of Jesus alone. And there were a few things that I had a strong feeling about that might happen in 2021. And all of them did actually happen. And one of them, which was actually good, was I was like, I'm going to get pregnant this year. I really think so. Because we were going to get married in March of 2021. And then we ended up getting pregnant in October of 2021. So I had that really strong gut feeling. I was like, I think I'm going to get pregnant this year. We weren't trying for it. We weren't planning on it by any means. But I had just had a really strong feeling, and I was correct. So anyway, a week after I got this word, I ended up finding out I was pregnant. And then we're entering into 2022. This is gonna be a lot of like background knowledge to make this all make sense. So Kai recently left a job that was too harsh on his body, and it wasn't making him enough money anyway. So he decided to take a different kind of job that would give him a lot more time freedom. He could work from home. It was night and day different on his body, but it was commission based, so it had the potential to make a lot of money, like untapped amount of money or zero money. But we prayed about it strongly, and we truly felt led that God was leading us through this door to that job. So he decided to pursue that job. I still feel that same way, that the Lord led us through that door for a purpose. And we also knew that I was going to come home full time once the baby was born. That was going to, it wasn't an option. I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. So on top of that, we had to pay all of our birth bills because everything was out of pocket. Because we did a home birth with midwives and stuff, and none of that is covered under anything. So everything had to be paid out of pocket before the birth even took place. And he's on a commission-only job, and I still had my job, but only until Eros was born. So when I first got this word in October, the word faith from the Lord, you know how I told you with hope, I had this immediate inclination of I'm going to get pregnant in 2021. I did tell Kai that when I felt that feeling. He was like, nope, you're not. And I was like, okay, maybe I won't, and I was right. So for faith, I had this immediate gut feeling that we were going to have to move in with family. And I was very not happy about it. I was kind of kicking and screaming at it, but it was one of those things that it wasn't like a thing of do you want to move in with family? It was just this is going to happen. It was almost like a little kind of preparation thing. And I just knew it was going to happen. And so we, in January, we were praying about what to do because our lease was going to be up, and we either had to sign a new one or move out. And the new lease would be for a year. So we had to let them know within a couple of weeks in January. We both prayed about it a lot. And as much as I did not want to move in with family, as much as my flesh did not want to do that because we were living on our own, we knew one, that it was a smart decision, and two, we had peace about it. God did give us peace, even though I didn't want to do it at all. There was no part of me that wanted to, and Kai had a lot of peace in his soul about it too. So we talked to both our families, and they both very lovingly said, you know, of course we could move in with either one of them, that we would be welcome if we needed to. And so we decided that in March, when our lease was up, we were going to move in with family. So our plan was to save as much money as possible when we did that, and then be able to either buy or rent a home when we got out of living with family, because up to this point we were in a very small 1-bedroom apartment, which was great. We were really grateful for it. It was beautiful. But it was, you know, it was really expensive for what it was. And it also was on the 3rd floor, and also like it was too small. Okay, I don't want to say this because it wasn't too small for a baby. We're in a very, very small place right now living with family, and we can still make it work with a baby. So I don't want to make it come off like you can't make it work. But if you're paying that much money, wouldn't you rather have more space? You know what I mean? So that's kind of our plan, was to save up to actually go into a home once we moved out of family, and to build up a cushion of like security money and stuff, so that in the hard seasons with Kai's commission only job, that we would still be okay. So in March we moved in with family. We did not renew our lease, and I was about 5 months pregnant at this point. And we stayed there about 2 months before moving in with a different family, because it just worked out better for everyone that way. So yes, I moved again when I was 7 months pregnant. Do not recommend moving twice when you were that pregnant. But, you know, whatever. It happened. It was fine. So all this time, by the way, I'm praying every single day about the home birth I want to have, about the health of our baby, about my health, about breastfeeding, just all the things, because having a home birth in itself is it took a lot of faith in general. I fully felt called to do it. Like, that was the only thing I felt peace about birth-wise. So I knew it was God wanting me to have faith and step in faith into that decision. And so that's what we did. But especially since it was my first birth, I've never been in labor before. I've never had a baby before. Like, it already took a lot of faith. So I was praying about this daily. During this time, Kai's job is not making the money we thought it would make. It was, so I know it was God, though. This sounds really weird, because you're like, what do you mean God was withholding money? I truly believe God was withholding money from us in this job for a purpose, to stretch us and to mold us. And it reminds me of in the story of Joseph, when he's in prison and he talks to the cupbearer and the baker, I think it is, and he tells them, don't forget me when you talk to Pharaoh. And they did forget him. But that wasn't, like, God allowed that. You know what I mean? Like, it was still by his sovereign hand that they forgot Joseph. And it was for a purpose. And that's how I feel with this. We still felt very called to stay in the job. We prayed about it probably every month of like, God, do you really want us to kind of stay in this job? Like, what is the purpose in this? And every single time it was yes, to trust him. And so we did. And it was just crazy, the amount of money over and over and over that we were supposed to have that kept falling through. And, you know, we have family in this job specifically that Kai is also in, that they were like, this never happens. Like, even they were like, this must be God. God must be withholding it for a purpose. And so I personally believe that was to stretch my faith in terms of his providence for me, because I didn't realize how much of a chain and an idol and a fear, really a fear, which I think fear can become an idol very easily, I put around money and having enough and all this stuff. And also what it really means to have enough, because it gave me such a deeper perspective of every time I was eating a meal and praying over that meal and thanking the Lord for providing it. I genuinely meant it. It wasn't just thank you, Lord, for providing this food. It was like, this is another meal that we have. God's never let me go hungry, and he never will. Like, it's gonna be okay. And that was definitely a stretch of my faith in terms of that. And it was kind of one of those things where I was like, we're at rock bottom. You know what I mean? I mean, thankfully, and I want you to know I'm very, very grateful. We have family that is so loving to take us into their home. We are in a very safe, beautiful place, and we feel very loved, and like it could be so much worse. But this was like, in my mind at the time, rock bottom of like getting married, having your own place, and then having to move back in with family, which I've learned now it is so not like that. Like so many people, so many more people than you would think have to move in with family, especially right now, inflation, everything. Like, and when you get pregnant earlier than you think you're going to, and all that, like, it is so much more common than you think, than I thought too. So, but at that time, it seemed like the end of the world to me. And so all of this showed me of just like, okay, your worst reality, your worst thought has happened. How bad is it really? God is still providing. You are still safe. You are still okay. So it gave me a new outlook on faith when it comes to his providence. And during this time, God was showing me all the little ways that he was providing for me, and he transformed my prayer life. So it's so cool. That's why I say the idea of faith being my word for the year, and just all these different words that he gives me each year, it's so eerily accurate in different categories too. It's usually not just one thing. It's so many different categories. And one of them for me was praying with faith. What does it mean to pray with faith? And I got into that in a video. I'll have it linked up here for you to look at and listen to. Basically, faith was my lifeline, and I never took, prayer was my lifeline, and I never took it seriously until this year. The seriousness that it really is of like anything you need, any way you feel, anytime you're feeling a certain way, you can go to God, the God of the universe who holds everything. Everything in the world is held together by his hand, and you get to go to him because Jesus tore the veil so that we can have access to the Father. And so that blew my mind, and it started being things where I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to start praying for it. Like silly-ish things, like we needed a fridge. And I was like, God, we need a fridge to put our food in. And I believe you're going to provide. And I even prayed specifics of like, can you help me find a fridge on Facebook Marketplace that is under this certain amount of money from a guy that maybe is really nice even, and isn't sketchy, and it works really well, and we don't have to worry about it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but like it just works really well, and it's great. And I don't even know how we're gonna pick it up, but I'm sure you'll figure it out. And I just literally gave that prayer to God. I was like, he's gonna figure it out. He's gonna figure it out. It's gonna be okay. Whatever happens, it's gonna be okay. And I found a fridge on Facebook Marketplace under the amount that I wanted. Actually, it was originally over. And I asked the person like, hey, would you take anything less? And he offered something below what we needed, and then offered to deliver it. And I was like, can we go see it too? And he was like, yeah. And so we stopped by his place to see the fridge, and it wasn't perfect. It had a dent in the front, but otherwise it was great. He was so nice. It wasn't weird at all. And I was just like, God did that. And like, same thing with a bed, like we needed a new mattress, like all these little things. My windshield got cracked. We didn't have a way to pay for it. And then somehow my insurance that I pay almost nothing for, we had the lowest plan, like the cheapest plan for car insurance, okay? Completely replaced it, totally free. And I didn't even know that was an option, and came and did it for me and all this stuff, and just little things. So my prayer life and praying with faith really blossomed during this time. So fast forward to July. I gave birth to Eros. It was a pretty fast labor, all things considered, which was extremely helpful, but it wasn't pain-free by any means. I have that link for my birth story also. I'll put it up here. It was excruciating pain. I had almost a 3rd-degree tear. It was the hardest, most painful thing I've ever done, like easily. And it wasn't what I expected, but weirdly, it's what I needed. I needed it to be that intense and difficult so that I could see that God was pulling me through, so that I could see the faith that the faithful praying that I was giving to him all that time had a purpose. In the hardest thing ever, he still pulled me through it. My body was the weakest it had ever been. Like I had no muscle in my body. He still made it happen. And it also gave me more faith in the way he made my body. Like, I am capable of so much more than I think I am, not because of my power, but because of how God made me. Our bodies are capable of so much more. Our minds are capable of so much more than we think. And God really showed me that, which was really, it changed my life. But it also made me more thankful than ever before for my faith in Christ. So my birth, again, pointed all the way to faith. And I thought about hell often during that labor because it was excruciatingly painful. And I couldn't get over the fact that like that labor was going to end, but the pain of hell never ends. And I had never been more crystal clear, laser focused on that, the fact that there's nothing more important in this life than faith in Jesus Christ. There's nothing more important. And that showed me that in a very tangible, physical way, which I will never be the same from either. So again, that pointed to faith too. So far, Kai's job not panning out the way we thought it would, and the money stuff, faith in God's providence, praying with faith, God teaching me how to pray with faith, this home birth, him actually giving me the desires of my heart that I had been praying for, but not in a way I thought I wanted, but a way I needed, pointed to faith, and him showing me that faith is the most important thing. And the home birth went great. Eros was born just perfect, and he was healthy, I was healthy, everything was great. And I was so grateful. I felt so blessed. I knew that God had heard my prayers all those months. And we were really grateful to be living with family for Kai's flexibility in his job, even if it wasn't making the money we thought it would, that right after I gave birth, he got to take off as much time as he needed to. And I got really sick a few days after birth, and I needed literally all hands on deck helping me. Like, it was really, I hated it. And so I needed everybody's help, and everybody was able to help me. So I was so grateful for that. That's more in my postpartum video, which I also made a video about if you want to hear that. But so then fast forward a couple more months to September. Things are still pretty slow with Kai's job. We still don't know, God, why do you have him in this job? Why do you have us here? What is going on? And towards the end of September, we had to take Kai to the emergency room, and he was admitted to the ICU for a blood clot in his brain. We did not see that coming at all. It was a miracle that something worse did not happen to him. And it was the most traumatic week of my life, for sure. He was in the hospital for a week. A lot happened throughout that. I have a video on my Patreon talking through that, because it's very detailed. So I'll have my Patreon down below if you want to check that out. That's a different platform where I post exclusive videos. So I'll have that down below if you want to see that. But basically, it was a lot. And as much as I was terrified, there was this deep, I guess I would call it a feeling. I do believe is the Holy Spirit, but this deep feeling inside of me that he was going to be okay. And as much as I was terrified, I had a 2.5-month-old, like, going back and forth, trying to breastfeed, going to the hospital, like, all that stuff. Like, it did show why we had to live with family during that time, why Kai had the job he had, because he had to take quite a few weeks off after, just to heal a little bit. And just, there was a lot going on. And that entire experience was full of faith for a few things. The obvious, obviously, I had to be faithful to God and trust that he did know best, whatever happened. Like, I was standing there thinking, am I about to be a widow with a 2.5-month-old at home? Like, what is happening? And I had to have faith that God knew what he was doing in that. But also, there were so many things that aligned perfectly to save Kai's life. Things that should not have happened just randomly ever. Like, it was God orchestrating every single one. And I could see the battle that, like, the enemy was trying to take Kai. The enemy, well, not his soul, obviously, but trying to hurt Kai. The enemy was trying to hurt me because my biggest fear was something happening to Kai. And these different things, and God just orchestrating seamlessly, everything working out, everything saving Kai's life. And with all that, I had to trust that God is faithful with my fears too, even my deepest fears. He has appointed the time for every single one of us, and I could trust him and I could put my faith in him for that too. So that was another thing that pointed to faith. And now, going off of that then, there are still things I have to be faithful for, and it's not even 2020. It's not 2022 anymore, it's 2023 now. But like the fact that we have so many medical bills now, it's laughable because we can't pay them. We can't, because it's like they want it all paid right now. Even the minimum that they say you have to pay every month for the minimum amount for a payment schedule, we can't do right now because he was admitted to emergency room twice. He was in the ICU for like 2 days. He was in the hospital for a week. Like, it was just all this stuff and all the medications, all the everything. His medication itself, the blood thinner he's on, is by itself over $500 a month. And we don't have that. And thankfully, again, the Lord has orchestrated ways for us to be able to get that without paying for it so far. But it's still a daily bread thing. We still don't even know how long that's going to last. Like, the blood clot's still technically in his brain. Like, there are so many things happening that we still don't have full answers to. We don't know what caused this. We don't know if it'll happen again. And we just have to have faith that God will provide. And I have to lean back into the previous months of the year of God providing for us. So he'll provide for this too, of God protecting my body in labor. He'll protect Kai's body, of, providing all these ways of faith and my praying with faith, that I can pray with faith, that he taught me how to do that. I can do that now. There's just so many things that happened this year. But then the last thing that kind of happened was it was December 30th. It was like the day before New Year's Eve, I think. And I just felt this sense of like, I wanted to sit down and just write down my prayers. And I felt this little urge, which I think was the prompting of the Holy Spirit, that just was like, write down all your desires for 2023. Write down all your desires and surrender them to the Lord. Just all of them. Everything you can think of in this moment, write it down and surrender to the Lord. And that was almost scary for me because it made it real. And it was like, if I write it down and it doesn't happen, I might feel crushed. Or, can I even bring these to the Lord? Like, I'm still grappling with this idea that God isn't waiting around, waiting for me to mess up and rebuke me. Like, he is a loving father who will convict me when needed, obviously, but he's not just waiting around for me to mess up, He's guiding me and he loves me. And so I just did it. I just wrote down a bunch of stuff, personal things and stuff for Kai and, marriage things and Eros and all these different things. And of course, like other things too, like our own home and very tangible things. And a few of the things that I wrote down, I kid you not, within 24 hours, again, they weren't like the home, like they were, I guess you would say, smaller things in the home, but still just as important. Within 24 hours, God had already started answering those prayers. And I was like, whoa, okay, he's very here. He's very present. He hears me, and I need to keep doing this. I need to keep praying. I need to keep surrendering it to God. And having faith that he knows what's best for me. And if there's something that a desire of my heart that is best for me and best for his, it brings glory to him, then he will give it to me. If those things, and that's what I want anyway, is for it to bring glory to him and for it to be for my greater good. So, but one of the things that I'm really, really excited about is I asked the Lord, God, do you still want us? Do you still want Kai in this job? Because I'm confused. Like, we have trusted you with all of this, and I understand why he maybe needed it for this past year, for everything that went on, but it's not turning out the way we thought it would. So I need some clarity. If this is really what you want, or if you want him to have a career in a different way, please give him a vision and a clear path towards what that career is. And I prayed that, and literally the next day, Kai came to me and he goes, I'm going to get certified in personal training. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And that's something that he has been it's been in the back of his mind for a few years, but he was always like, I don't know how to make a living for our family doing this, whatever. But we're both kind of like, what do we possibly have to lose? We're already not making enough to get our own place. So we're already living with family. Why don't we just go after the dream God's put on your heart for years and what you're good at? Because he's so good at it, guys. It's like incredible how good he is at this. Like it blows my mind. And let's just do it. So I'm very excited because he's going to get certified in personal training. We're going to pursue that career. He's really excited, and we have a plan. And we're obviously offering that plan to the Lord and hoping that he guides us and changes anything that needs to be changed or opens the doors. But I'm really excited for that. And just to finish off this video, I wanted to mention my word for 2023. This is actually very scary for me to say because I don't want it to be perceived the wrong way. But I have to have faith that the Lord, no matter what anybody thinks about me or about this word or whatever, that I know and I have faith in God that he did give me this word. And I don't know what it means yet, but I know that it's going to be the best because he's the best. And I recognize his voice. So for years, since I think 2020 or 2019, I have joked every year with God. Every single year I joked with him in prayer when praying for my word of the year. And I was just like, is it my year of abundance yet? Like, could that be the word of the year? And every time it was no. Every time it was no, it's forgiveness, no, it's hope, it's faith. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then this year when I started, it was around October time, and I was like, this is about the time that the Lord gives me a new word. I wonder what it's going to be. And I was like, I'm going to start praying about that, stuff like that. And I started praying about it. And one day I was just literally joking with the Lord while I was praying. And I was just like, is it my year of abundance yet? Like, totally kidding. And I just got this overwhelming sense of peace. And I don't know how to describe this to you because I don't want it to seem all hippy-dippy, blah, blah, blah. But I felt like the Father was smiling down at me. Like, almost, like I literally get like tears in my eyes. Like almost like yep, it is. And I was just like, no way. And I didn't believe it. I was like, I felt that peace, but I was like, surely I'm making this up. Surely I'm making this up. Like, and by the way, none of this was out loud. This was all just praying to the Lord in my thoughts, okay? Just to be clear. And I was like, whatever, I'm going to pray about it because surely that's not right. So I started praying about it more and stuff. And like, I think 2 days later, I went to Kai and I was like, I think the Lord might have given me my word for 2023 already, but I don't really know. So I'm going to pray about it. And I had no anticipation of like telling him. He goes, what? Abundance? Like out of nowhere. And I was like, and I was like, yeah. And he was like, what? Like he was shocked. Okay. And then somebody else, I forget what the scenario was, but somebody else kept mentioning to me, they're like, I just feel like 2023 is full of abundance for you, or something. It was something along those lines. And I was just like, whoa, okay. And I kept praying about it and stuff like that. And I was just like, here's the thing. It was scarier for me because here I am in October. My husband just got out of the hospital. He still has blood clot in his brain. He's still healing. We are under piles of medical debt. We are living with family. I don't have a job. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I mean, I have YouTube, obviously, but like that doesn't pay the bills yet. I'm a stay-at-home mom. Kai's job is not delivering the way we thought it would. And I get this word abundance. And it almost feels like a joke. It almost feels like, is this a trick? There's no way. It'd make a lot more sense if it was like perseverance or something, but it wasn't. And I don't know what that means yet. I am not under any kind of impression that that means I'm going to be the richest woman in the world or anything like that, or that hard things still won't happen, because I don't think that either. But I know that abundance is good. I know that abundance is good. And it feels like rest. And it feels like springtime after a long winter. And I know that the Bible talks about the abundance of God's steadfast love. And so no matter what, it's going to be that. And I'm very excited for that. But like those feelings I got when I got the word hope of like, I think I'm going to get pregnant this year. And I did. And then the word faith, where I was like, I think we're going to have to move with the family. And we did. I get this feeling that things are going to be good. And I'm going to feel rest for the first time in a while. And it's going to be like a... And so... whatever that means, I don't know yet. But I'm very excited. And I know God has good things for us this year. And I know it's not just going to be, it doesn't mean we sit back, do nothing, and everything's handed to us. We are actually working very, very hard. I've never had more motivation in my life to work hard, ever, and consistently. But I am working hard and then putting that work at the feet of Jesus and saying, here you go. Do with it what you will. I know you promised me an abundant year, whatever that is. That might not be financial, guys. That might be something else. But I know no matter what, God's going to teach me abundance in this year, because I know his voice and I know he gave me that word, and I'm excited about it, whatever it is, because I know it's going to be incredible. So I'm excited this time next year to talk about what God did in 2023. I'm a little nervous. But I'm excited. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a long one. Thank you for sticking with me. And yeah, I love you guys a lot. And I'll see you soon. Bye.